Tom Murphy joins us, Whole Hog Sports, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Tom, before we get to kind of go on what's going on in Knoxville this weekend, what do you make of what's happened in about halfway through this season in Chapel Hill? There was a level of investment with not just Belichick's salary, but it sounded like NIL, and it's just been a disaster thus far. Do you expect the Hall of Fame NFL coach to make it in Chapel Hill, even just the rest of the year?
Wow. Yeah, I was aware of that. I've seen some of the reporting and some of the responses, and I was not aware of Bubba Cunningham's statement that you guys read out a minute ago. But it's just indicative, like, there's 130 whatever fan bases in the country, and there's going to be about 6 or 8 of them just aflame, every year. I mean, some of them are going to be in the SEC. Arkansas has certainly been in that mix this year. That, like, nothing that can happen is going to satisfy everybody. But it has been a disaster. I mean, it just feels the whole thing at UNC with Belichick and his 20-something-year-old girlfriend and the way she kind of stage managed some of the stuff and the performance of their team and that game everybody was watching against TCU where they just got pantsed. It's just been embarrassing. And so hopefully the cooler heads, a part of the fan base, can understand it's maybe a short phase, but there's always going to be that internet troll level of stuff going on. That's whether it's your fan base or somebody mocking your fans or your situation, that if you dive too deep into it, I mean, it's called doom scrolling if you do it on Twitter. So you just have to kind of stay level, man. And I found myself last night, it wasn't doom scrolling because I'm looking at like cute videos of animals and, stuff like that. But there's so much on Twitter you can dive into that sometimes you just have to break away from that. And if you're covering the team, I mean, you still got to, it's like me. I'm writing a bunch of stories about what's going to happen, the rest of the week, what's going on with the Arkansas defense, my advance for the game, that I can't spend, 20 minutes diving into something. But anyway, now I've used a lot of your time, and I apologize.
No, you're good, Tom. So when you talk about diving into the game, I know your colleague Ethan was writing about kind of the advantages that Arkansas may have, and I think he mentioned the tight end, maybe the secondary. I know Pochka's out. They just listed on the SEC report last night. But Tom, where do you see Arkansas, in your opinion, having an advantage on Saturday, if any, against the Vols?
Well, for my matchup section that comes out on Saturday, I've already determined quarterback. Small tease here. The numbers for Taylon Green and Joey Aguilar in passing are just unbelievably, remarkably similar, within 50 or 60 yards in total passing yardage, 1 touchdown off. Aguilar's got 13, Taylon 12, 5 interceptions each. Where Taylon crushes him is with his rushing ability. So do you give that to quarterback? Do you give that to running back? Yeah, you'll see on Saturday. But, yeah, I think it's two of the strongest offenses you'll see in the league versus 2 of the more suspect defenses. So, to me, Arkansas' strengths and Tennessee's strengths are similar, and some of their weaknesses are also the same.
When you think about going on the road to one of the largest venues in the country, you're having your first game with an interim head coach. Would you prefer to have this at home and maybe the pressure of a home game but not the travel? Or, in your mind, how's this set up? I mean, you can't change it, but advantage or disadvantage the fact that you're going on the road and what might be the toughest environment left on your schedule taking on Tennessee?
Clearly disadvantage. And I wrote about this in today's paper. I think this note made it. But this is Arkansas' 6th game, 5th different venue, and they have had 2 home games. The closest team in the SEC in terms of shortage of games at home on campus is 3. And there's, I think, 1 or 2 teams, or maybe 1 team has had 3, but a bunch of them have had 4. A couple of 3 have had 5, and Missouri will have its 6th on Saturday. So, huge disadvantage. And, of course, Bobby Petrino makes this casual remark. It's 100,000 fans. It's going to be, we handled our road game at Ole Miss pretty good with the communication, but this is going to be more hostile. And I see Ole Miss fans jump all over. Oh, look at Bobby Petrino's throwing shade on Ole Miss. It's a simple difference between 70,000 or whatever Ole Miss seats and 100,000. That's 40,000 people, folks. So, yeah, it's going to be more hostile and louder.
Yeah. What do you expect from an effort level? It's been visibly noticeable that, the team has played a step or two slow at times, not playing all out. You think Petrino wrings that out of them this week? Will we notice a difference in the level of just effort and activity from this team?
That's what I'm writing about right now for tomorrow's paper. It's about what can you do defensively, and I think from his standpoint, just kind of go back to the basics to allow them to play faster. The answer is obviously going to be on the field Saturday, but I guarantee you this: he's gotten their attention, and I think he and Chris Wilson have tried to boil it down to the players. Look, what you put on the field the rest of the season is important for you. It's important for us. It's important for your teammates standing next to you. So, buy into this, and we're going to try to simplify things for you to make the calls quicker so you can get aligned properly, to help your eyes be in the right place. And if you can play faster, you're going to be around the ball more. You're going to be more physical and all that. So we'll see how it plays out. The thing that's hard for me to reconcile is I know these players love T. Will, and so many of them talked about coming to Arkansas because Travis Williams recruited them, and I don't understand why it didn't translate to them laying it out on the field. And maybe the scheme was too complicated, but that's the part that's tough for me to reconcile.
Yeah. I mean, I even spoke to this last night again, and when the first time he spoke to that first team meeting, but I think he said there were some hurt feelings in that meeting, and trying to heal that up and make this a team again. I mean, and maybe I'm reading too much into that, but it feels like there has obviously been some divide. How do you bring both sides of the ball back together and be one team? That to me is one of Petrino's greatest challenges right now.
No question about it, Tommy. And yeah, there's going to be hurt feelings. There's going to be guys who committed because of Travis Williams and Marcus Woodson and Deke Adams. So, but Petrino, he's a no-nonsense coach, and I do believe he knows how to motivate, get players' attention, and he's talked about some of those, the ways to do that. And we will see how it plays out, what the buy-in is, how much of the rope they're still holding on to when it comes to Saturday. But he is you heard him talking about it on the radio last night. Not only is he, an offensive guy, but he coaches the coaches, and how coaches communicate to their players is a part of how he helps the coaching staff do their jobs. And so, look, he's made some key defensive decisions in his career, and he's good at it. And we're going to see that play out on Saturday.
Tom Murphy, Whole Hog Sports, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Tom, earlier this week, we were talking about Ole Miss and Missouri both sitting at the top of the SEC, undefeated at this point in time. Missouri, it's got a big game this weekend with Alabama. Ole Miss has got Washington State in town, but they go to Athens next weekend. If you had to pick between Drink's squad and Kiffin's squad, who's more likely to burst through and get to an SEC championship this year?
Ooh, that's a great question that I have not pondered before. Obviously, both of them have benefited from their schedules to start the season. I mean, Ole Miss was at home and had to hang on tooth and nail just to beat Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And their first road game was at Kentucky, who you could argue is one of the top two or three, least strongest teams in the SEC right now. So, I would have to see what the rest of both of their schedules look like, but Missouri's has been really fortuitous. So I know it means they end with a road heavy second half of their schedule. So that's staring at them. But I do think they're both really interesting and intriguing coaches. I thought what Drinkwitz did in Atlanta was basically, I don't care what you write about me. And early on in his career at Missouri, it bothered him. Now he doesn't care. I like that a lot. And just the way Lane Kiffin does things, the trolling he does, his entertainment value is next level. I also think some of the thing he does with injury reporting and, some of the, injuries on the field and the way he manipulates stuff like that, I have a problem with. Sam Pittman clearly had a problem with. But anyway, I've said a lot to say. I'm not sure who I would favor down the stretch.
Neither of those coaches are on the hot seat by any stretch of the imagination. We've seen Sam Pittman let go first SEC coach this year. Napier, I know they got a big win against Texas last week, but he could be on his way out. Between him and Hugh Freeze, who got asked about his job in the teleconference yesterday, Tommy, do you anticipate both those guys out the door after the season, or just one of them by season's end?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. And that goes back to my thought earlier about there's going to be several SEC fan bases aflame because all of them expect to win. And so Hugh is clearly under some pressure. He's lost at home to Arkansas, and I know they gave Oklahoma a strong run, and A&M, whoever they played in their second conference game, but haven't won. I like to hear Hugh talk. That's good Southern talk that he puts out there. But it looks like it's going to be a tough run. And then, obviously, Florida's schedule is just so daunting. Just like South Carolina's schedule is daunting. I saw a bunch of stuff on that yesterday, their next 5. But that's the way it is. That's life in the SEC. Maybe the odds would favor both of them. But clearly, Napier's was on that hot seat odds a little bit stronger than Sam Pittman earlier this year. And, Mark Stoops, I think, would also be in that boat.
Tommy, I don't know if you saw what Tom was referencing. South Carolina, listen to these next 5 games for Shane Beamer's group. At number 11, LSU. Versus number 6, Oklahoma. Versus number 8, Alabama. At number 4, Ole Miss. At number 5, A&M.
The tough games always catch up with you in this league, guys. I mean, we can talk about this team's got an easier schedule. They're at home a lot early. Well, that means they're going to be on the road a lot late. You avoided this team or that team or ranked teams. Tom, it always comes full circle. I mean, we can talk about toughest schedules. There are no easy schedules. It always comes home to roost in this league.
Right, and I saw a comparison like Oregon's next 5, and it's just unbelievably different, unbelievably lighter. And they're at the top of the Big Ten, and they probably will be in a play. And they're a strong team and deserving probably of a playoff. But anyway, that's why you saw some coaches earlier this year. Hugh Freeze talked about our fans have got to start understanding that 9-3, you're in the playoff hunt, and it's also a really good team. And then Sarkisian echoed that last week before they lost to Florida, that fan bases are just going to have to understand. And so even really good teams in the SEC are going to have 3 losses. And that's just going to be a fact of life moving forward. And also, I want to make a public apology to Caleb Wooden. I referred to him as Colby on the player interviews Tuesday night. That's his brother. But it's something I had hoped I would avoid doing. But Bob used to like Grady Ollison, and then Tony Ollison was his dad, and they wrote about Tony back in the day. Same thing with Junior Soley, and then Mateo comes along. They would write Junior sometimes. And here I am referencing Caleb as Colby. And he called me out. He said, "Did you just call me Colby?" So I had to apologize, and now I'm apologizing to the state. What a soft-spoken, like a well-spoken kid Caleb Wooden is. He's been a tremendous asset.
Well, just hope Wally doesn't write you up for that.
And I hope everyone can forgive me, man. I've been through some stuff.
Well, we'll find it. So, Tom, enjoy safe travels to Knoxville this weekend, and hopefully Arkansas can keep the gloves up for 60 minutes.
Yeah, I expect to see a more competitive team. I really do. Even if they wind up losing the game, I think they're going to be fighting. I think you're going to see a better defensive performance. And the longer you can stay in the game, much like against Tennessee last year, the more chance you have of pulling that upset.
There you go. Tom Murphy.
You don't always win your first bet. That's why MyBookie has you covered. Use our code HOGS, HOGS, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If your pick doesn't hit, you get it right back with our Bet Back bonus. Go to mybookie.ag and use the code HOGS to claim your Bet Back bonus. MyBookie's where bettors win together, because bragging's good, but cashing in is better. And your first bet is fully covered. Use our code HOGS.
Must opt in during the bet to use the Bet Back bonus.